Hello. We are live. We are live. We are live. We are live. All right, guys. We are going to just go through these questions. I will give you my perspective. I am a man with a wife and kids and a business and a life, and I'm just going to give my perspective. I don't have all the answers, but I've been thinking about this stuff for a long time about what is a meaningful life, and obviously from a man's perspective. So, we're going to go through these questions. What's it like having a dad? We're going to go through the question, what is your experience with cold approaching women? Cold. Oh, it's so cold. Icy cold. We're going to talk about the question, men who became dads. What's it like and what do you recommend to someone who's becoming a father soon? If you're becoming a father soon or you're thinking about becoming a father, then let's do it. Let's do it. Men who need solitude. How do you make your marriage work? We're going to talk about that. And just so you guys know, some of these are actually the wrong question. What I mean by that is you're asking the wrong question, whoever asked this question. And then we're going to do, what are some obvious signs a woman is into you? I'll give you my perspective on that. And men who are sensitive and emotional. What do you do to change that? And what is your reaction when your wife tells you you're right? So let's get into these questions. Let's do it. What is it like having a dad? Welcome in, guys. We just talked about the questions that we're going to go through. I'll go through them one more time. What's it like having a dad? What's your experience cold approaching women? Men who become dads, what should you expect? Men who need solitude, how do you make your marriage work? And what are some obvious signs a woman is into you? Men who are emotional and sensitive, what do you do to change that? And what is your reaction when your wife tells you you're right? All right, let's get into these, guys. I'm just going to go through these questions. I'm going to give you my perspective, and feel free to give your perspective. Here we go. Having a dad is one of the most... So what's it like having a dad? Who in here is a dad? And wow, that is a crazy... Was I in a Mr. Beast video? No. How do you deal with... No, I don't know how to answer that question, but let's do this. So what is it like having a dad? So I'll just give you guys my perspective. I have a dad. I've had a dad, and I'm going to tell you my perspective, and also I'll tell you about people that I know who don't have a dad and what I've seen. They're my good friends, and what I've seen in differences in their lives. So having a dad for me is one of the most important things that exists for men. This is a fact, and I agree with it. Again, this is a fact, statistically backed up, and I agree with it. So this is what my dad taught me, and I can't go through all of it, but I'll tell you what my dad did teach me, even just by existing or maybe by telling me, but we'll go through them. So one thing is that my dad taught me that marriage is something that is not something that you do until you're bored or until it's hard. So this is the foundation of society. And yo, what's up, Quinny and Rolex? And so marriage is not something that you do until you're bored or until things are hard. That's one thing about having a dad. And then he modeled to me that you take care of your family at all costs. So that helped me to be a man. That helped me to see what it meant to be a man, was that you do whatever you can to save your family, to protect your family, to provide for your family. And if I hadn't had that, I don't know where I'd be. And then he gave me, just by being present, he gave me a sense of security. And I'll tell you what that means. He gave me a sense of security because when your dad is gone, and I'm going to talk to you about the contrast of that when your dad is gone. When your dad is gone, then it's just like this foundational thing that tells you every day when you wake up and your dad is not there and you have no dad, that you're not wanted, that you're not important. And so that is the main thing. The it's a very foundational thing to just have your dad be there, just be around, not be completely disappeared. And because it's really a foundational thing. And what I've found is that a lot of people have a hard time understanding a higher power, a father, God, also when they don't have a dad. So I'll tell you what friend, my friends who've had problems with in their lives, and they didn't have a dad that was present. So the what I noticed about me versus my friend, my my one of my good friends who his dad left when he was just a little kid, he had a ton of problems, psychological problems, and one of them was this abandonment issue. And so he felt very codependent. You could see it. He was always, his friends were his life. He had to have his friends next to him at all times, and he still struggles with this insecurity of just being alone. And he also had these pretty intense psychological behaviors, tantrums, anger, and he didn't know how to control them. He didn't have a grounding force in his life. And let's see what else. He these people that I've seen without dads, they're often um, criminals. They're often codependent. They're often trying to prove something irrationally. All right. So that's what I've got on today. That's what I've got for what it's like having a dad. I'm going to go to the next question. So, what is your experience with cold approaching women? So, write in the chat. Do you think you should cold approach women? I think that's the wrong question, and I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. So, I think dudes are confused today. So I had my young years of approaching women and trying to have relationships and trying to be cool and say, "Oh, I got with this girl and I got with that girl." And I had some success with getting with this girl and getting with that girl. But uh, the men these days have bought this idea that screwing a bunch of women is some sign of success. And there's a biological component to that because obviously procreation is ingrained in us. And so, Genghis Khan type deal where you can be the more children you make, the more you're contributing to the flourishing of humanity. And so this is deeply ingrained into our nature as men to have a to have relationships. But this is not the right question. There you you don't need to get with a bunch of women to be successful. The idea, the foundation of society is around a family. It's around a family unit. So if you are just trying to cold approach women, that's not that's not the right answer. And let me show you what I mean. So if you really wanted to be successful, as in create a family, build a family, and have kids that look up to you and think you're Superman, and build a ecosystem around you that involves a family and kids, then you wouldn't be cold approaching women. You wouldn't be going to a bar, because in a bar women are promiscuous. They're not virgins. They're not the cream of the crop. You would be living a life that is worthy of someone who could be the head of a household. You're living a life that is worthy of someone who could be the head of a household, and as a consequence of that, you are in proximity to women who will be interested in you. So cold approaching women is kind of silly. Like with my wife, I was around her, and yeah, I cold approached her in a way, but I was already in a context where she would trust, there would be an implicit trust to a certain extent, a certain level of trust. But uh, so if you are a upstanding man in society, then there will be women around who will see you and look at you and want to and be interested in getting to know you. So just going out on the street or going to a bar or going to a club, you're not going to find someone anyway that's marriage material, that's around, that's ready to make a family. So that's what I would say to cold approaching women. You could get good at pickup lines, go for it. But in reality, if the best thing to do is to set up a life where you are a strong man, you can provide for yourself, and you are in the community. You're at church, you're in a community environment, you're around people who are doing good things, and then you will see women who are looking for that. So, uh, the framework that I have for this, I'm going to give you a framework that I have that's around that's kind of informs this question. The creation framework, and I always talk about this on my channel. The creation framework is basically, I want to help men to build meaningful lifestyles by aligning themselves with the creator, with creation, which is the fundamental intention of the universe. What does that mean? The fundamental intention of the universe is life. Everything is about life. And in order for life to flourish, you have to survive. And in order to survive, you have to create things. You have to create a fortress for your family to live in. You have to create a community that would be safe. You have to create resources so that you can eat and all these things. And so if you are doing this, if you're in a creation aligned format in your life and you have everything lined up towards being productive, towards creating something, then you will be in a community where women exist who admire that and say, I want that man, right? So let's go to the next one. Men who become dads, what's it like? And what would you recommend someone who is going to be a father soon, right? What would you recommend to someone who is going to be a father soon? So I'm going to say this in a very holistic way. So I want you to listen closely to what I'm saying, and then I'm going to answer this question about becoming a dad. So the first thing is, you are in this game. right? This game of life, this game of being a human on Earth. So why not play it as well as you can? And you've probably heard gurus, and I think I've heard Jordan Peterson say this. I think I've heard some other people say this, that you're in this game, all right? You can't escape the game, okay? So if you're in the game, you might as well play the game to your advantage. You might as well play the game to the rules that work in the universe, right? So becoming a father is the central aim of a man. If you look into history, the who was the guy who what was the main thing for the royal people and for everybody to have? It was to have a son as an heir, right? They wanted to have a son because they wanted to bring on the carry on the legacy, right? This did not happen by accident. This is part of the design of the universe, is to have the reason we want our name to be brought down is because of our innate nature to want to have legacy, because legacy is connected to the innate desire to survive, to flourish, to continue the human species on into the next generation. And so being a man, being a father is the central aim of a man. So humans still exist because men have an innate desire to have children. Everything is a circle. I want you guys to understand this. Everything is a circle. So we want to have kids because it continues the survival of the community. Welcome in, guys. We are fulfilled by kids because it aligns with the creation framework of continuing, of procreating, of creating, right? And we feel empty when we don't have kids because we aren't following that natural cycle of life, that natural cycle meant for humanity. That is why when you become old and you don't have family, then you're alone, right? Then you feel lonely. It's all a circle. So God wants us to have kids because the universe is designed for us to, for humans and animals to procreate and to continue that cycle. And because God is life, or the universe is life, and we have to have the rebirth. Everything in all religions is all about rebirth, death and rebirth. The circle of life from The Lion King is about this circle of dying and then coming back, right? And kids, the whole idea of baptism is to go into there's a story in the Bible about how this guy says, how can I go into the womb again and be reborn? That doesn't make sense, right? What he's saying is that you have to let the old self die and be reborn. People being born, being a father is another process that is parallel to rebirthing, right? To renewing what is old. And so you cannot be a full man. And I'm not knocking people who weren't able to have kids, but I'm saying that that is the natural cycle of the universe. So if you are going to become a dad, then you are doing what you're supposed to do, right? You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. And this is why I believe that a marker of success in a man is having kids. It's just is what it is. It's the one of the main markers of being successful as a man is having kids. So again, we're going to keep going back to this framework of creation and how it relates to men. So now I'm going to go to this next question. These are all questions that are popular to men. I found them on Reddit. So, men who need solitude, how do you make your marriage work? So, Men who need solitude. How do you make your marriage work? I need lots of solitude. I need to be alone all the time. My wife does not like being alone, so I will speak from personal experience. But I'll say there's two reasons, in my view, that women don't want to be alone, don't want you to be gone, right? There's two main reasons. One, you might be cheating on her. It's obvious, right? I'm not saying you are. I'm saying that's one insecurity that they might have. The other one is she feels lonely, right? It's pretty simple. So, the first thing I would say is, in my experience, this has worked. And when I say this has worked, I mean that it has done the job, right? I'm not saying I have had no struggles with this, but the first thing I would say is be honest. Grow some balls and say, I want to be alone. I am a man. I have to be alone to think, to get stuff done, to make sure I know where I am situated in this life, right? So that's the first thing. Be honest. And basically, what I do is I literally just say, I want to be alone, and you need to give that to me. Now, there's some other things that I add into that ecosystem in order for this to work. So that's what we're going to get to next. The next thing is get up early. If you want to be alone, get up early. And I have my own business, so I set my own hours. I decide when I'm going to engage people and when I'm not going to answer the phone. So that helps me, and I can give my story about how that works, about how I got there, but that's not the topic right now. So this helps me. Having my own business allows me to have my own alone time. But get up early in the morning and use that time to think, to be alone, to write stuff down. I write every single day. I read every single day. I read the Bible every single day. I do all these things alone before anybody wakes up. Now, the next thing, make daily deposits into your family. So this is something that men need to understand. Men need to be proactive, not reactive. So you can't just go, "Oh, my wife it says she's doesn't want to be alone, so therefore I have to do all this stuff and I have to fix it." You should be proactive. So what does that mean? That means go out of your way to actually pay attention to your wife for a certain period every day. Pay attention to your marriage, to your kids. So have non-negotiables. What I do is every single day I make my wife coffee and I sit down and I drink it with her. Right? I drink coffee. I have these stops in my life, and you can organize this how you want. I eat with my family, most meals, and so I'm alone when I'm not doing those things, but I'm going out of my way to do things with my family at certain intervals of the day. So you want to go out of your way. I used to, and I probably will do it again. I had a phase in my life where I wrote a note to my wife every single day and I gave her a compliment in that note. I made her feel important. I made her feel noticed. So if you can do that, if you can be proactive and do things that make them feel noticed, then you can go off and they will not be like, "Oh, he's probably cheating on me." They will trust you that you just need to be alone. And then the last thing that I want you guys to understand, because I see a lot of men asking about, like, "Well, what if my wife is like this and she's upset?" And so women will always complain. Women will always complain. So you you can't take it personally. they are wired to do this. This is something that men do not a lot of men don't understand, especially in this new age, millennials and Gen Z or whatever they're called. They don't really understand that uh, that this is just the natural way. Women always complain, and this is because they are wired to be worried about things because they're supposed to be there with the kids. They're supposed to be making sure the kids aren't sick, making sure the kids don't get attacked by an animal, making sure that the fortress is locked down. That's what they're there for. So they're wired with negative emotions more dominantly negative than men. Men are made to be proactive. They're made to have a forward looking outlook and to be hopeful because they have to build something. They have to innovate. They have to go out and fight the lion. They have to fight the bear. So they have to have confidence. And so that is the dichotomy. That's the both sides of the coin. In a man and woman relationship, the man is supposed to be like, yeah, well, I can see the bright side of this. And I am not bothered by these things that might be worrisome to me. And so if you take it personally, then you're just turning yourself into a big baby. What you should do is listen to your wife when she complains, but don't take it personally, right? Listen to what she has to say and then use that as information to overcome certain challenges in your life that will fix that, right? But you can't be sitting around worrying about the fact that she said a negative thing. You'll just be ruined as a man. So what you should do is go, "Oh, okay. Sounds good. I heard you," and then move on with your life. Build a fortress, build a business, build a security in your life. And then you should also take into account this, that you should always be doing what is right for your wife and what is right for your family. That that is very different from doing whatever she says, whatever her emotional whim is right now. You should instead be doing what is right for her. So you have to be proactive and say, okay, this is what I can do to build security in our family, to build a sense of safety, to build a sense of unity. All of these things. If you do those things, then you are solving her problems, but you're not taking it personally. That's what she's always going to do. She's always going to see the thing that happened and then go, oh, but this, oh, but that, oh, this could fall. Oh, they could get cold. They could get sick. This could happen, right? So you have to be unshaken by that, and you won't be perfect, but you have to make that a goal to not take it personally. So those are my um the okay, yeah, now we've got, what are some obvious signs a woman is into you? This is a funny question. The Again, this is kind of the wrong question, but it's something that people are always asking, and so I want to give you my perspective on it. What are some obvious signs a woman is into you? This stuff is like basic, it's easy, but like I said with the other one, of what's your experience with cold approaching women, this is the wrong question because it will be obvious a woman is into you if you are living a life that is proactive, that is strong, that is upstanding citizen in your area, in your community, and there's a woman in your proximity. Women who like you will probably pay attention to you. They will probably actually listen when you talk. They'll probably actually laugh when you say stuff. And if you think that it's going to be some mysterious thing, then it's not going to work. The other thing is, if you if you are in a context where you are an admirable man, and you're an able-bodied strong man who is doing everything to build a good life and build a fortress and build a strength and integrity in your life, then you can basically just go up to after you've seen it. Will, for me, it was obvious. My wife wanted me when I went to her. I was very obvious that I was pursuing her. I remember she said to me one time, she said, it was like one of the first few times that I'd probably seen her like 4 times, but I hadn't really talked to her that much. And she said, what if uh, you should come and try some of my mom's food, because she's Latina, and so you should try some of my mom's food because she's a really good cook. And I already liked her, and so I just said, "Oh, sounds good. How about today?" And she was like, "Oh, not today because we're not ready, and I haven't arranged for that, right?" And I said, "Oh, well, it's okay." And I was very insistent. I just said, "No, it's fine. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't mind if it's something elaborate." And she literally let me come to her house impromptu out of nowhere and eat her mom's food that day. So I was so there was 2 things that were going on there. One, I knew that I had nothing to lose, and I was doing the best I could to live the life that I should be living. And so I knew that if some girl said no to me and they weren't into me and they said, "No, I'm not going to hang out with you," I knew that that didn't matter, because that just meant that I could go on to the next one, right? And that's the key there, is that when it doesn't, it ruins your reputation and you look like a creep if you're a creep. If you're a person who does not have integrity, who is not strong, who is not pursuing a good life, and you ask someone to hang out with you and they're grossed out by that, then that ruins your reputation. But if you are doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing as a man, and it's obvious to people around you, and you go, "Hey, you, I want to date you," and the girl says no, then everybody around will see the girl saying no, and she'll say, "Oh yeah, I said no," and they'll be like, "Man, you just let that one go, like he was awesome," right? But if you're a degenerate, then they're going to say no. Or if they don't, they're going to find out later that you're a degenerate. And if they like you as a degenerate, then they're probably not great, right? So the next one, men who were emotional and sensitive, what did you do to change that? Men who were emotional and sensitive, what did you do to change that? So this is another question that is difficult for men to understand, because we're getting gaslit today. We're either being told that men should be completely emotionless, or we're being told, which is the worst one, is we're being told that being emotion, being full of emotion and being all sensitive and wah wah is okay, and it's actually a sign of being really a good man because you're not a toxic male, toxic masculinity. And this whole idea of toxic masculinity is literally an anti-human attack on society in general, on the foundation of society. Everything that they're saying is toxic is actually just a thing that men do, right? And so, what should you do to change it? It basically, if you work on being a strong man, it's not about turning off your emotions. It's about increasing your bravery. It's about having a forward-looking outlook on life. It's about innovating. It's about building something. It's about um, having mindsets that are productive, right? So the idea of trying to not be so sensitive, that's really a matter of being insecure. If you can't, if someone says like you're ugly or I think your beard sucks, and you cry about that or you're upset about that, it's not that you should specifically try to not cry. It's that you should start to think about, why does that matter to me? Well, men should, and humans in general, but men especially, should be able to hear someone and say, okay, that's what you think. Who cares? Because if you're on a path and you have a good moral framework underneath you, you have a good foundation, then the things that people say about you, you'll realize are mostly just a reflection of them. It's a reflection of what they think, of their insecurities, right? So when people try to put other people down, then they're actually just trying to cover up and distract for their own insecurities. So if you are secure and you know the path that you're on, and someone says, you're fat, then you can be like, yeah, actually, I need to work on that because I'm on a journey to not be fat, and then it's done, right? But if they say something like you're dumb, then you can just easily be like, what do you have to prove that I'm dumb? And if so, then I can improve my if I think that your argument is valid based on my understanding of the world, then I can do something to improve it. I don't have to be emotional about it, right? And so the idea of trying not to be emotional is not the correct way. The correct thing you should be doing is learning how to carve out your path as a man, how to focus on creating things and going on adventures and doing the biggest thing you can do. And once you've done that, once you have your eyes set on what you're doing, then other people's chit chat about you, or other people's reactions to you become much less significant. And oftentimes, another way to look at this is, if you are very internally focused, if you're chronically internally focused, then you'll be too sensitive, right? Because a person who is looking outward and they're obsessed with where they're going, they're not trying, they're not sitting in their thoughts and going, oh man, look at me, look how unfortunate I am, and blah 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 blah. So that is how you would change it, is by finding an aim, by lifting the heaviest thing you can. And the last question that I've got here for today is, what is your reaction when your wife tells you you're right? When your wife tells you you're right, um, that's who cares? Because your goal is not to get it as a man, your goal is not to get women to go, oh, wow, you're right all the time. Your goal is to do what is right and to have a firm standing in your moral framework, in your have integrity in your life, and to move towards a certain goal uh, without looking for other people's approval. As a man, if you sit around going, oh, what do people think? Then you'll be a mess, right? And so the same with your wife. Pretty much everybody I know, their wives are never convinced, right? That they're very happy with the protection and the things that they're getting from their husband, but they're not just going around going, "Oh, you're so right." Oh, if you need a woman to worship you, then you're not in the right mindset. So you should be content with the path that you're on, and you should measure yourself by your results. And obviously, women will see that, and they'll understand your energy of being resolute and being going towards a certain goal, and they will admire that whether they say it or not. And so I don't ever wait for my wife to go, yeah, you're right. I just, when we have conversations, I say what I believe and I listen to what she says. And if she says something that's correct, I say it. I don't care. That's fine. If she corrects me and I actually believe that what she said is correct, I don't have a problem going, yeah, actually, that's true. But when I'm not convinced by what she has to say, when I don't agree with it and I've considered the options, then I just go, okay, thanks for the input. And then I move in the direction that I was already going to move. Do I take into account what she has to say? Of course. But I make the decision. So this is something that this is some gold that I'm just giving away for free right now that I realized that many people don't understand, and it's about love. Okay. Love is doing the best thing for a person. People are completely confused about what love is. Love is not made to, you're not supposed, it's not where you're appeasing someone. Love is not about appeasing someone and making them smile. Love sometimes has that result, but that's not the purpose of love. Love is to do the thing that is in the best interest of the person at the time, right? And so if you can do that, then you will have the admiration of your wife and of the people around you. But you have to create that track record of being resolute and doing what is in the best interests of your family. And if you do that, it doesn't matter if your wife says, "Oh, you're right," all the time. It just because that doesn't matter. What matters is the result. And so love is about, so when I'll give you an example with my family, my parents had two biological kids, one of them was me, and two adopted kids. One of those kids that was adopted had some mental issues, okay? Some brain damage, basically. And so the way that my mom and my dad treated my brother was very different from the way that she treated me. The idea was not about equality. Love wasn't about her treating him with the same energy that she treats me, or her treating him with the same compassion that she treats me, or whatever. It was about her going, okay, this son, he doesn't have brain damage. He is going in this direction and he has these problems. So I'm going to punish him or not punish him, or reward him or not reward him, based on what he needs to grow as a man. And my other son, based on his problems, I am going to treat him with a different amount of energy, of attention, and so on and so forth. If they treated us equally, then that wouldn't be love, because they're not loving us for the best interest of us. So to wrap that all up in a bow, this whole time that I've been talking, this is sort of what whole narrative is about. The creation framework, when you're looking at all of these questions of being a dad and being a husband and being rejected and being accepted, everything is about doing the right thing, doing what is in the best interests of you, and aligning that with the creator, which is this idea of creating and building things and recreating and rebirth and so on and so forth. If you align yourself with that, then you, in the long run, you are going in the right direction and you are winning. So that is what I've got. And I want to know if you guys want to hear me answer more questions from my perspective. And I'd love to see you guys again. And hopefully we'll do this again soon. I talk about helping men build the most meaningful lifestyles by teaching them to align their habits and their mindsets with the creation framework, with creation, which is the fundamental intention behind the universe, of the universe. Everything is about creating rather than destroying. This is what our society is going through, this fight between creation and destruction, which is why we're having all of these problems. We're having all of these satanic things that are trying to mirror creation. They're trying to mirror being good, being loving, being productive, but they're actually destructive from their core. And so we need to we need to push that away and have a forward thinking momentum that is about creating things, that is about hope, that is about building. And then we can move forward as men and we can build meaningful lives, and that will be great for the society. God bless, and I will see you soon.